Hello, Phantom Mennonites. I am Griffin.
I'm David.
Welcome to the Phantom Podcast. Griffin and David present the Phantom Podcast.
That's what we present.
Where we talk about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The one film that George Lucas got to make.
In his epic trilogy?
Saga? I don't know. I don't know what he wanted.
What did he want?
I don't know how many movies he wanted.
Is he still alive?
He is.
Crazy.
He is. I don't think he's doing great. But as we all know, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace was the one Star Wars movie that was ever made.
Yeah.
That's the only one, and that's all we're going to talk about. And if you imply that there's another one, we will look at you askance, I say.
Yeah, we're gonna blockade your trade routes.
Oh, we will blockade those fucking trade routes.
Yeah.
On the donut ship. Someone pointed out to me that I forget who it was, but someone on Twitter pointed out that there is a connective bridge within the donut ship. You know how we were saying it was the donut
between
ship
like
and there was
the hole in the middle? Yeah, there is something.
Yeah, I thought it was free floating.
That would be crazy.
Well, yeah, well, I mean...
God, you just have to get in a ship and drive to the center ship and then get out of the ship.
That's what I thought. David, you're saying, oh, that would be crazy. What isn't crazy in a movie that takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
What isn't crazy?
Everything's crazy.
I guess so.
A galaxy far, far away, okay, I'm on board. A lot of movies take place in different galaxies. A long time ago?
A long time ago.
You're telling me this is the past?
Well, how else will George Lucas know to write about it?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
We can't write about our future.
I'm assuming he unearthed all of this information somehow.
How long are we talking?
A couple years.
You think it was just like 15 years ago?
In the 80s.
Yeah. It takes place.
But in a galaxy far, far away.
1982 in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
People don't talk about that enough. A long time ago. It's a period piece, this film.
It is, yeah, set in the past.
A long time
ago.
And,
you know, you say films take place... Not a lot of films. Usually films take place in this galaxy. It's just far away in this galaxy, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. Like Boise. A lot of movies take place in Boise. Far away in this galaxy. Things to do in Denver when you're dead that takes place at a further part of this galaxy.
That's true.
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is a film with a lot of haters, a lot of criticisms that surround it. Since its release, this podcast exists to try to not quell those criticisms.
No, neither to refute them, just to give them more analytical grounding.
We're trying to really get to the bottom of this movie with this one question that we're trying to answer every week. One question: what is the Phantom Menace about? Now, when people talk about this movie in a negative light,
there's a lot of bile.
There's a lot of bile, and there's one subject that bile usually circulates around.
Yeah. I think that when this film came out, the initial reaction, the initial negativity was mostly directed this way.
Right. And we have addressed this.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
But we've hesitated to do a full episode yet because it is such a sensitive subject. But I think, you know what, David? This is episode 6.
It is.
Gloves are off. We got to do it. We got to ask the questions.
No one dares ask?
About Jar Jar Binks. Yeah. We have to answer the questions that no one dares ask about Jar Jar Binks.
To the best we can.
This week is a profile on Jar Jar Binks and the Gungan race.
And the Gungan race.
Gungan.
Well, George Lucas calls them Gungans.
He calls them the Gungans.
Everyone else calls them Gungans.
Gungans. Including them. I think they refer themselves as Gungans.
Well, they're Gungans!
Shout out to my boy Boss Nass.
Yeah, there's three speaking Gungan parts, right? Boss
Captain
Nass,
Tarples.
Captain Tarples.
Jar Jar Binks.
And Jar Jar Binks.
As we've covered many times in these past episodes, 2 of those 3 Gungans made up my holy trinity of favorite Phantom Menace characters.
And the third being Watto.
Watto's number 1 with a bullet.
Right. We haven't really talked about much either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Watto, though. Then Boss Nass, I say, is coming up the rear.
And so Tarples is right in the middle there?
Tarples comes in at number 3.
Oh, he's number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, whatever. No, it's fine. Watto. Boss Nass.
Yes, that is correct.
Captain Tarples. Who's number 4?
Tarples sneaks in at number 3.
What about TC-14?
She's number 4.
Oh, damn. Damn,
She's number 4. It's gender inequality.
It is.
No, I'm talking more about who jumped out to me watching it the first time as a boy.
Fair enough. So
Those are my top
TC-14
three.
wasn't on your mind when you were 9 years old, is what you're telling me.
TC-14 has been the breakout star of our recent rewatches.
That's true.
The 10 times I've watched this movie in the last 12 weeks have revealed to me that she is the most fascinating character.
Yeah.
The first time she didn't jump out to me that much because I was a boy. I didn't know. I knew so little of the world and the ways of women and droids. Captain Tarple snuck on the list mostly because of the Jar Jar Yusa in the big doo-doo now.
That's right. He's the leader of the Gungan. Well, no, whatever. He's a captain in the Gungan army.
Military leader. Yeah. Boss Nass is the boss.
No, I wasn't saying he was the leader of the Gungans.
Right, the Gungan army.
He's a leader in the Gungan army. He's a leader. But Jar Jar Binks outranks him, as I discussed a couple episodes ago.
Boss Nass, is that the official
Boss, I believe, is the honorific. Yes,
right.
is his title.
That's
like Queen Amidala, Boss Nass.
Let's do a little Wikipedia search.
That's true. Does he have a longer actual name?
Oh no, that wasn't my question. Oh, if his name is like Richard Nass. No, my question is, that's producer Ben on the laugh right there.
Yes, his name is Rugor Nass.
No, my question was he elected?
Oh,
to
that's
boss?
a good question.
How does one become boss? His name is Rugar?
Maybe. Rugor Nass.
Rugor Nass?
Yeah, Rugor Nass.
Wikipedia goes so deep that if you search for Boss Nass,
There's
says
2 entries.
It also says, "Do you mean Rugar Nass?" like we're plebeians who would call him Boss Nass.
Yes, he was a boss of all the Gungans. So boss is the, it's the title he gets, and he held a bitter prejudice against humans. Yeah,
but does it have election? Boss's tenure?
I'm getting to it. He was an army sergeant, then an engineer, then an energy miner, then he was the head of small businesses, and then he won the Big Nasty Free-for-All, a grueling physical challenge in an annual Gungan Festival of Warriors 3 years in a row. And so he was elected with a supermajority in a landslide boss of the Gungans.
Okay, so it is a vote.
He's elected.
But it sounds like your physical prowess has a big impact on whether
or not
people vote for you.
The Big Nasty Free-for-All is apparently very crucial in the Gungan society. God, the Gungans.
3 years in a row. Okay, so there's a quote at the top of this Wikipedia page, as there often are for the character entries.
Yeah, sort of a choice quote from the character.
Right, something that sums them up real nice and clean. Here's Boss Nass's quote. Yusa, no thinkin', Yusa greater than the Gungans, Misa lika this, maybe Wisa being friends.
Yes. Do you want to try to say it as Boss Nass, though?
No.
Great.
Yusa not thinking Yusa greater than the Gungans.
He goes, Gungans?
Yeah.
He might actually say it like that, Gungans.
Misa like this. Maybe Wisa being friends.
I think he's like, maybe. And he always goes like,
yeah.
He does that a lot.
Yeah, the great Brian Blast coming up with fucking 15 different fucking vocal tics.
Yes.
But this gets to the first thing I think we need to address with Jar Jar Binks. The speech pattern.
Okay.
The language of the Gungans, Gungans, because the Gungans ostensibly speak English.
Yeah, or at least they speak basic, whatever the language is that is being spoken in this universe.
Right, but we never hear them speaking.
We don't speak them in another language. We don't hear them speak another language like we would with, say, Watto.
Right.
Watto speaks another language,
at
times, and it's subtitled.
R2-D2 talking totally in beeps,
bleepy bloops.
You know, right. A very undeveloped character in this film.
What he fixes the hyperdrive. That's about it, right?
He's fucking out of there. Yeah.
Oh no, he's in the Naboo Starfighter at the end.
But what does he fucking do? I don't know. But there's no scene where like they're in front of the Jedis and then they go like, Wisa sidebar, and then they like talk to each other and like,
right. No, that's true.
Right. So
they speak the language that Naboo speaks.
Their modified, basic, universal language is broken by our standards of English. Is very broken.
It's different.
Yes,
it's very different. Yeah, it's like a thick dialect.
Yes, one could argue not just in the dialect, but in dialect is one thing, certain words.
No, you're saying
ways.
they talk like children almost. Yes.
Well, saying Yusa no thinking Yusa greater than the Gungans.
Right, it's beyond dialect.
Not just are you modifying, because I'm saying it in my own voice to make it clear how it was written, okay?
Yeah.
not just is you getting turned into Yusa, but the structure of that sentence is incorrect.
It is.
It's childlike.
Then again, Yoda also speaks in a childlike structure, sort of.
Yeah, but he uses the right words. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like...
No, I understand.
This is a hat on a hat. Like, Yoda takes the right words and he mixes them up.
The syntax is wrong, but the words are right, yes.
Right. The effect is...
The hat on a hat, I like that.
Thank you. The effect is that it makes them sound very uneducated, right?
It does, yes.
Right, even a character like Boss Nass, who is very regal, supposed to be in charge of everything.
Yeah. And who is meeting with the royal...
The queen.
Yeah, the royal family of
yes.
Naboo.
It makes him sound like a big old dummy. Now, at the time the film came out, the year 1999...
Year of our Lord, 1999.
When I was 10 years old, and I saw it, and people were telling me, hey, this movie's really racist. What are you talking about? Those are aliens.
So people, even at the time, were saying to you, like, this is fucked up.
This is fucked up. Yeah, I remember my babysitter asking me if I thought it was racist. And I was like, what parts of it are racist? The things that I have since come to understand, that are common knowledge for anyone who is older, is that for a lot of really bad periods of especially our American culture...
I'm excited to hear you explain the history of racism in this country.
Yes. The history of minstrelsy in this country, blackface performances, white men putting burnt cork on their faces and doing a song and dance routine, making fun of just how implicitly stupid black people are. That was pretty much the cornerstone of what blackface was, right? I'm not saying that's what,
of the minstrel
what
show,
I think, but that was look at how goofy all these blacks are.
Yeah, and sometimes black people would play these roles in blackface. Sometimes white people would. Yes,
right.
Yeah.
The only way black performers could get ahead was to be like, hey, I'm in on the joke.
But there was a certain sort of performance and dialect and type that you were playing.
Right. And I'm using the word stupid specifically because the cornerstone of it was they would always speak in really broken English.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, these black people, they're uneducated, they don't know proper English, everything they say sounds really, really goofy. And the way it would sound often is, Yusa no thinking Yusa greater than the Gungans, Misa like this, maybe Wisa being friends.
Maybe Wisa being friends. Which he's trying to say, I propose a formal alliance between our peoples.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big moment in the movie.
Right.
It's where whatever tension between the Gungans and the Nubians, the Nabooians, is being resolved.
Right.
When he says, I already forgot it. Maybe
Yusa no thinking
being
Yusa
friends.
greater than the Gungans, Misa like this, maybe Wisa being friends.
There we go.
This is a man elected unanimously, you said?
Super majority.
Super
was the word
majority.
used. Maybe not unanimous.
Yeah.
But really, really big. Yeah.
But fought 3 battles to the death in order to win over...
No, just feats of strength, I think.
Okay, well, battles to the death in order to win over the approval of his people.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly is a master negotiator, a brilliant politician.
Yeah.
As you said, he's making a huge move here.
Not only that, the film's sympathies clearly lie with him.
Yes.
And with the Gungans.
Yes, but the way he phrases that move makes him sound like a baby. Right? And that was a lot of minstrelsy, and blackface was making black people sound like children.
Right.
Uneducated, illiterate children.
And
this really, really uncomfortable stereotype.
No, it is. And it's interesting because it's I think we were talking about this. Like George Lucas has a long history of like contributing to sort of causes in the civil rights movement.
His wife is an African American.
It's it's not like he's going into this movie thinking like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to subtly bring back a minstrel show in the form of science fiction.
Well, and that's what's so unsettling to look at is that as a child I was like, this movie isn't racist.
As a kid, you just think like Jar Jar Binks is a clown character who's funny.
Well, people said to me, I went, how is it racist? And they went, Jar Jar Binks is an offensive stereotype of black people. People said that to me as a 10-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And I went, that's not true. No one talks like that. He's an alien. Black people don't talk like
that.
No one
you
talks
had no
like that.
context
That's
for
Jar Jar
what was being discussed. Sure.
Right. And then, like, in high school, I became really obsessed with minstrelsy. I was trying to, like, get to the bottom of it.
Wow.
Yeah. I was trying to solve the world's problems.
I don't think you succeeded.
No, through a 10th grade paper that was titled Back in Blackface. And I got a B-. It was a terrible paper.
That's a great title.
If I ran for president, it'd be the first thing that came up.
Yeah, you would just be disqualified immediately.
It was just so
I think
wrong.
if you ran for president, this podcast might be the first thing that came up.
Yeah, they just have to play all the Nemoidian clips tied together every time I did that voice. No, I was as a teenager, I was like really, really obsessed with racism and the history of racism in this country, and I thought I was going to write a paper that would solve all of it single-handedly. And so I spent like a couple. This was like my big project in history class that year. I spent a couple of months watching and reading as much as I could about the history of menstruating in this country, and watched a lot of Amos and Andy. And Amos and Andy is like a big cornerstone of like it was a highly successful radio program and that TV show that lasted for years. Common misconception about it was that it was all performers in blackface. Most of the cast was actually, on the radio it was white men. When it went to TV, it was predominantly black actors.
Right.
And there would be maybe one character.
Because your lead characters were black. Amos and Andy are black. Yeah.
Yes. But they were very much this stereotype at the time of like these, uneducated, simple-minded, get-rich-quick scheme focused, goofy men. And the broken English that they spoke in is very, very similar to how Jar Jar and the Gungans speak. And that's what's uncomfortable. Like, you look at something like Transformers 2 Revenge of the Fallen.
We should do a podcast about it.
I'd love to do a podcast on that.
You're talking about the two idiot, ice cream truck
I believe their names are Skids and Mudflap.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're like robots with gold teeth.
They have gold teeth.
They talk about bling.
And they can't read.
They
I remember
can't
that.
read.
That's revealed late in the film with
Right.
I can't really read. And
Yeah.
you're like...
And the way they speak and the lingo they use is very much reflective of hip-hop culture.
Sure, yeah.
Like
it's
modern
a more,
day hip-hop culture.
Right, they're sort of stereotypical cartoonish.
Right, and I think Michael Bay said, well, the robots are meant to be black. They're robots. Robots don't have race. And it's like, yeah, but you know what you're doing. You're making these robots sound and act like a movement that is predominantly made up of...
African Americans.
Right. That's what you're doing, right? And so that is not the case with Phantom Menace. It's not like George Lucas is making a race reflect the way a race of humanity behaves today. He's specifically making a character behave in the verbiage of an artistic medium that was created solely to embarrass and belittle an entire race. You know?
I do, but with this added, there's also a bit of a patois that's somewhat Caribbean-like as well.
Right.
The accent has that inflection to it in some of these characters.
Yeah.
And I guess they're island peoples, and they're sort of they live underwater, but that's right.
Yeah.
And they're more primitive, quote unquote. And so, than the Naboo people, and I don't know.
All the
and he talks about that
bad.
in the commentary where he's saying it's like the Vietnam War and these primitive people are winning over the superpower. He thinks it's a good thing.
Yeah, but
I think he's trying to underline it,
Yeah.
but he's doing it with the worst possible whatever you want to call it.
This isn't a funny episode. This is us actually because these are tricky subjects. I mean, people always talk about a lot, especially when it comes to things with dancing, like Dancing with Wolves or Avatar or whatever.
Sure.
How much they hate the stereotype of the noble savage.
Yeah, the noble Native American type.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, here's a primitive people, but they're purer than us. They're more noble than us.
They're in touch with the spirits of the earth and the elements, the winds and the water.
In touch with each other.
And,
they can see through the bullshit vapidity of our culture.
And here we come with our machines to chop down the trees, and we're so awful. Yep.
Right. There's
a guilty sort of
Right.
Yeah.
And the white man, the outsider, comes in and he learns from them how he should be living his life.
Right.
George makes this interesting choice to have the primitive race also be really, really goofy.
Really goofy.
And silly. And childlike.
Yes, but also integral to the plot.
So now I want to interject and just say that I think what is off-putting to me especially is the fact that isn't Jar Jar kind of for kids?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And so
he openly talks about that, yes.
And so you guys are even talking about the history of just finding this kind of stereotype.
Yeah.
Made me think a lot about Looney Tunes.
Uh-huh.
Because that especially, I mean, that's, an old show from a long time.
From a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
I think it was in our galaxy.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
fine,
Space Jam makes it very clear that the Looney Tunes world is not its own galaxy. It takes place in the core of our planet.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's
all
canon.
I was
That
gonna,
is canon as part of the Star Wars universe.
I mean, all I was going to say is like you find in Looney Tunes propaganda, especially around World War II, like terrible stereotypes against Asian people.
True.
Yeah, so there's just there's something very off-putting about the fact that it's almost like he's fitting into these characters that, or even just a movie that's kind of for kids.
Well, yeah, and then young Griffin Newman is like, I don't
Right.
understand what you
I
mean
don't understand
racism.
what's going on here.
He's an alien. I don't get it, but there's a subtle sort of.
Well, I think there's also this sort of like commedia dell'arte of stereotypes. You know, in the same way that like within commedia dell'arte, it's like, oh, there's like the sad like there are these archetypes that we have. Looney Tunes is tapping into this sort of language, the old Looney Tunes, where it's like, this is how rich people act.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
This is how Southern Hicks act. And it's like different socioeconomic classes, different races. You know, you encapsulate things, and some of them are less offensive, where it's like, okay, a French person chain smokes and wears a beret and has a striped shirt,
Sure,
and a baguette, and they're snooty.
Yes,
and they're sexually aggressive.
They're sexually aggressive and they're snooty. You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
these kinds of things, and some of them are really, really uncomfortable to watch. You know, like I don't think reducing entire groups of people to like 4 or 5 visual signifiers and 2 or 3 characteristics is ever good. No. But some end up being a lot more offensive than others. And we as a culture have been trying to move away from all these easy go-tos. And if you watch a lot of dumb, broad comedy, especially comedy made for children, you watch things like, you know, the live-action Nickelodeon shows or Disney Channel shows, and not racially, but at least culturally, they are still trafficking in these broad stereotypes of like, this is what a popular girl is like. This is what a jock is like.
Sure.
You know, this is what a rich guy is
even
like.
and even like, oh, here's sort of a flamboyant, sort of swishy kid, or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, and a homeless dude and like all this stuff. Just different types of people, you know?
Yes.
Reducing any type of person based on their experience.
Look, can we agree we don't like we don't like reducing people to stereotypes or
Right.
entire races?
Right.
to-
But my point here is, what's weird is that George is in no way reflecting the actual culture that we live in. He is just making a character that is a heightening of a stereotype that existed a
That's
long
true.
time
I
ago.
get what you're saying, but
in a galaxy far, far away.
But he's doing it in a sort of Looney Tunes way where it's like, well, we need a funny character, so he'll
Yeah.
do everything funny. Because that's the problem with Jar Jar Binks. He can't fucking open a door without
Right.
it being a calamitous, hilarious experience.
Okay, so here's a big Jar Jar question to you.
Okay, you have some questions. I
Yeah,
heard.
would
Yes.
Jar Jar be as offensive if he was, to use the cliche, a noble savage? If Jar Jar
I
was
see.
not such a goofball, if he was not so prone to accident and messing up our hero's best intentions and best laid plans, and he still did speak in broken English, and he
would be-
was childlike, you know, I'm not saying it'd be good.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be better or worse. It would be different. It would be bad.
Right, because
So, like,
there's
let's-
something about the fact that he's goofy and he's bad. Like,
No,
he's
yeah, well,
goofy and he
let's
fucks everything
examine
up.
his arc
Sure.
briefly in the film.
Yeah.
So, Qui-Gon rescues him when he lands on Naboo from being knocked over by a droid ship, I
Right.
guess. And so he's like, I owe you a life debt, and he just tags along with Qui-Gon.
Which, shall I say it?
And Qui-Gon calls him a local.
Shall I say it? The life debt thing feels a little like, oh, you own me now. Like, does it not?
Well, especially a little bit, but it also feels like the laziest fucking story mechanic, because it's like
Sure.
Qui-Gon just kind of like, you know, pushes him in the ground so something doesn't knock him over,
Yeah.
and then he's like, great, I have an excuse to just stick with you this whole time.
All he does is just push him a little bit out of the
It's
way.
really not a big deal at
Yeah.
all. And really it's more because Jar Jar's in his way and he's like, get the fuck out of my way.
Right.
Yes.
But considering that, like, the, you know, the good part...
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like indentured servitude.
Yeah.
Is like, well, for a character that already is being compared to Step and Fetchit just because of his behavior...
Yeah.
and his dialect and everything.
Right.
You're also going to have him be, like, waiting on...
Now, to be fair,
Yeah.
the only slave that Qui-Gon actually owns in
Is
this
Anakin.
movie is Anakin
I know.
Skywalker, an actual slave.
Yeah.
And he doesn't ever really seem to want Jar Jar to be around. Like, Jar Jar is the one who's like, I'm going to hang out with you. And Qui-Gon's like, it's not a big deal.
Right. But it also
But-
makes it more
but you're
uncomfortable is like, Jar Jar's kind of like, please let me be your slave.
Well, also because, I mean, you know, as we, you know, Jar Jar was banished from his, we learned quickly he was
Yeah.
banished from the Gungan homeland because what he knocked over a bunch of shit or something.
Yes.
Like because he's clumsy, right? They actually say he was banished because he's clumsy.
Yes.
Like early in the movie, he's like Misa clumsy.
Yeah.
So he needs a friend. Is all I'm saying. Like right, he's a little clingy.
Yeah. Yes.
So anyway. They rescue him. I just want to analyze this arc briefly. They rescue him.
So tough.
They go to the Gungan underwater city with him almost immediately, even though he'd just been banished. So he's I don't know. He
shouldn't be going back there.
But
they told him to get out. They told him to scram.
At the Gungan underwater city, Boss Nass is kind of like, I don't really give a shit about you, but for some reason they give them a planet, a ship anyway. Does Qui-Gon brainwash him?
No.
How do they get the ship through the planet core? Just whatever, they convince him.
Human communication.
And Jar Jar goes with them. I think Boss Nass thinks that this is basically a death sentence for them anyway, but they get through there. They navigate around some monsters. And then Jar Jar just kind of hangs out with them for the rest. He doesn't really do much else.
No.
Until the final climactic battle where he's back in the Gungan army and he helps defeat the droid army.
By mistake.
By like falling over a bunch. Yes,
catapult and
There's one scene where he's got like a half a droid torso like caught on his leg and he jumps around and he accidentally shoots like 6 droids. It's anytime he accomplishes anything, it's by accident. And it's through this sort of Buster Keaton pratfalling routines, except as I think Connor pointed out a couple episodes ago, Buster Keaton, or maybe you pointed it out, Buster Keaton never speaks and Jar Jar won't shut up.
My favorite thing about Buster Keaton is how he talks all the fucking time.
Oh my God, he's so annoying. And he's in it all, he's in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He never is not around.
But it is an interesting, and by interesting I mean terrible choice on George's part, to have him be both like a savage, quote unquote, and have him be an idiot.
And not really have a moment of redemption.
Right.
More just his idiocy, like, tricks everyone into thinking that he's actually a genius.
He's less sophisticated to everyone else.
Yeah.
He doesn't teach anyone else anything.
No.
And at a certain point, just through law of numbers...
sort of. Through dumb luck.
His fucking up eventually. You fuck up as much as Jar Jar fucks up. Eventually, something's going to turn out well by accident.
Yes.
You know?
Now... That's an interesting point because Jar Jar is an idiot, but the other 2 Gungans that we know are fairly competent. Like Boss Nass is certainly in charge of an entire race of people, and Captain Tarples, he seems to know what he's doing on his. So Jar Jar, even within the context of the Gungans, is stupid. Like the Gungans aren't weird or stupid, except they talk in this like kind of baby language.
Which really,
Jar Jar is both talking in this obnoxious language and really, really dumb.
Okay, so this is my question number 2. If the other Gungans didn't speak in the same language, would Jar Jar be less offensive?
So you're saying Jar Jar still talks like he talks.
He goes, "Oh, Misa, oh, you great life, Dad," and then they go down and Boss Nass is like,
"What's up?
I'm so sorry about Jar Jar."
I think that would be really bad because then it would be like Jar Jar literally was a mentally infirm, like a disabled person who had been cast out of the Gungans.
But that's why I kind of prefer
like on some sort of short bus, a one-way short bus out of Odo Gunga.
Well, I mean, talking about reviled movies that you and I like defending, I don't know where you stand on this one, actually. I am a noted defender of Gore Verbinski's The Lone Ranger.
I have never seen The Lone Ranger.
I like it a lot. And when it came out,
a lot of people, I feel like, there's been some movement on that one. I like Gore Verbinski.
Me too.
Well,
but I like his stuff that I like a lot.
Yes, I agree. Rango.
Yeah, Rango rules.
So good.
I'm a big fan of The Weatherman. We disagree on that one.
We do. But it's been years. Mouse Hunt's good.
Mouse Hunt rules.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking Mouse Hunt. The Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
When it came out, everyone went, "Oh fuck! Why is Johnny Depp playing a Native
American?" Sure.
And Johnny Depp would go, "Oh well, I'm actually 164th," and I was like, "Get the fuck out of town! Who cares?" Right? And a lot of my friends who saw the trailers went, "I find it really offensive because here's this race has been so mistreated throughout our history, and now we have like a white actor playing a Native American more visibly than any Native American has gotten a chance to show themselves in a big studio film in however long.
Yep.
And it's all him doing like silly pratfalls and wide-eyed like stares and slipping and falling off stuff. The Lone Ranger, you meet Tonto. Spoilers. He teams up with the Lone Ranger. About an hour into the movie, he's still the only Native American you've seen.
Okay.
And about an hour, maybe an hour and a half into the movie, the Lone Ranger gets taken back to Tonto's tribe.
Okay.
And there's a scene where the Lone Ranger wakes up in a teepee, and there are, like, the Indian chief is there.
Yeah.
The Native American chief is there. And, surrounded by a couple other members of the tribe. And he wakes up, and he starts talking to them the way he's had to talk to Tonto.
Right.
And he's like, look, me come long way looking for...
Sure.
Like, says the whole thing. And then the chief just goes, Tonto's been a problem in our culture.
Right, I see. That's a nice turnaround.
And it's not just played as a joke, right?
Yeah.
He spends a lot of time there, like at their base. I don't know.
It's almost like Tonto is this undesirable stereotype they wish they could be purged
exactly.
of. Sure.
Exactly. It almost feels metatextual.
Now that works a little better again because those are actual Native Americans, whereas
Agreed.
the Gungans don't have the exact analog. But
Right.
I know what you're saying.
Yes. But it's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question. I like the idea that they go to the Gungans and they're like, yeah, it's crazy that Jar Jar's the person you met, but okay. Like, yeah, I mean, if you want a ship through the planet core, we'll give it to you. Just, yeah.
Even if they just had the same voices, some of the same slang words, but spoke in proper syntax.
Maybe.
Just because throughout the history of this country, it is so comedically lazy and gross and ugly to make these stereotypes of African-American people being uneducated.
But we should say Jar Jar Binks is played by an African-American actor.
Yes.
Boss Nass is not. He's played by a white actor.
Tarples isn't either.
I
think we looked it up
We
last
did look
week.
it up
Yeah.
last time. I don't remember who
Yeah.
plays him, but yeah. And I don't, I think Ahmed Best has said, like, it's not a racist thing. Like, he said, like, I'm just doing what I'm doing and it's funny. I'm trying to find the exact
I don't know. There are voices that aren't associated with certain ugly moments in our history that you could have chosen to take on.
Well, the other problem is, like, you've got the Nemoidians already. They're in the first 10 minutes of the movie and they're the worst. And
Watto's
then
a Jew.
Watto is this, like, floppy-nosed.
Yeah. We have Yariel Poof off to the side. Representing
It's
the
just
Queerian
a
race.
bad bunch.
Meeting up with Republican senators in
there's-
airport bathrooms.
The problem is that the human white characters.
Yes.
Well, there's some, Mace Windu and Captain Panag. There are some people of color in the
Right,
cast,
and notably
but still.
those two characters have no character development whatsoever. They're just
barely
people
any
who
lines.
say things.
But still, the humanoid characters basically are the smart civil characters.
Yes.
And all the enemies are aliens except for Darth Sidious, I guess, who's a
Right, and
person.
all the aliens behave and speak like middling tracks off of early Mickey Rooney records. Like, that's the problem. It's not just like,
Man,
like
this is a
I could
serious
make a voice
episode.
right now that would have no association to anything. But then it's like every one of their voices is like, oh, right, that's the Chinese
Man,
waiter
we
sketch.
gotta
That's like,
we gotta talk about Watto too, because Watto's just
Watto.
crazy.
We gotta talk about Watto.
You know who drew my attention to Watto was David Schwimmer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
David Schwimmer hates
He
Watto.
spoke out about Watto really early. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll talk about Watto.
This is just
But
sort of
we
a race
have to
relations
talk
episode.
about Jar Jar in Tatooine.
Yes, but can I just say this for 1 second?
No, that's fine.
This is because this is my Tonto pitch. What if when they went down to the Gungan
Yeah.
base, right? And Boss Nass is there, and he goes, "Oh, so Yusa want to make an allegiance with Misa? This is a thing that Wisa can discuss."
I don't think that Yusa, Misa, and Wisa can survive. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm
then,
not. I'm not into
I
it.
gotta throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't think you can do it.
I wish they didn't sound so dumb. Even when they're saying smart things, the way it's written is so dumb.
Well, that's the annoying thing. It's like the whole movie is the Gungan triumph. The closing shot of
Yeah.
the film is Boss Nass
Holding up the orb.
holding up a big glowing orb of something
Yeah.
or other, and it's obviously this like celebration, and it's an alliance between this planet's warring races.
Yes.
And so it's not like the movie has a problem with the Gungans. Why the fuck?
What's George's
They
I don't
talk-
fucking know.
But it's like we said in the
Yeah.
commentary episode, George sees this as a primitive race, and he wants that to be true.
that's what's problematic is the association.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like he wanted to have this race come off as primitive.
Yes.
And that's why I think he's making a lot of these choices that are devastating
Yeah.
to anyone's enjoyment, any grown person's enjoyment of this film.
Agreed.
Devastating.
Tatooine. is a lot of stupid fucking Jar Jar hijinks.
It's a lot. Yeah, that's where it's at because on Tatooine, we cut the cast in half, basically. So we've only got Qui-Gon, Amidala, and...
Not Amidala, Padme. Padme Nabire.
Qui-Gon, Padme, and for some insane reason, Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, you're going to leave Obi-Wan on the ship and you're going to take Jar Jar with you?
Nonsensical, because it's like, okay, we've landed on this desert planet controlled by a race of slug gangsters.
Yeah.
Let's bring the Jedi Master. Good thinking. A handmaiden. I don't know why you're insisting, but I guess you just want to avoid...
Whatever the queen says goes.
Whatever the queen... There's the queen, here's Padme, yeah. Queen, Padme. We're going to take Padme. There they are in the same room together. We're going to take Padme.
Two totally different
Spoiler
people.
Alert, it turns out to be the queen, guys. We talked about it.
Fucking stupid.
And then, who else should we bring? Maybe the pilot of the ship, because the ship's grounded, and he might be someone who knows about fucking hyperdrives. No, leave him. Let's bring Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. Even bring up boring old Rick Olay. That's
what I'm saying. Rick Olay could be like, oh yeah, that's the hyperdrive engine we need.
Right.
I am the pilot.
Right. Panaka gets stuff
or
done.
Panaka.
Rick Olay knows the ship. R2 even was the one who fucking went out to try to fix the hyperdrive in the first place.
And also, it's a desert planet
It's a desert
sand.
Planet.
Jar Jar is an underwater creature.
Yep.
This is the worst place for him to be.
Yep.
He should get in a bathtub and just take it easy until they can go home.
Yep.
But nope. Out he goes with them.
And if you go, well, oh God, he owes Qui-Gon a life debt. He's going to follow Qui-Gon wherever he goes. If it's a real life debt, and if Jar Jar's respectful of that life debt, then Qui-Gon should just go, hey, Jar Jar, if you want to help me out, do my taxes. Just fucking stay in the ship and do my taxes.
I think the Jedi are tax exempt.
Okay, but I'm just saying, give him a menial task.
No, I know, of course. Is Jar Jar following him into the shower? Like, how close
does
he have to be?
Everywhere?
Anyway. I forget. Is it discussed? Is it like Jar Jar's like, I want to come too?
No, they just cut to them walking out of the ship and Jar Jar's in tow. He's part of the skeleton crew now. He's the posse.
So they go to Mos Espa, the city in Tatooine, to try and get a hyperdrive because their hyperdrive has been broken by laser fire.
Yeah, and the only one who has one for sale is a Jew.
The only one who has them for sale
is a flying Jew.
Is a 2.5-foot flying fat
lizard
Jew with stubble and a big floppy penis nose.
He loves money
and like 4 teeth. Who's like, and he talks like this.
Yeah.
And he owns 2 slaves at least. 2 slaves, a mother and a son.
Yeah. And
he's also a degenerate gambler.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything else about Watto? He has a chance cube.
He's an Orthodox Jew.
And he's kind of nice sometimes to Anakin.
Yeah.
They have kind of an understanding, but at the same time he owns him and treats him pretty badly.
Been a default father figure to Anakin.
Exactly. There are a couple moments where he's like, then you can go home, and Anakin's like, yippee! And it's, I don't know. I mean,
all these hijinks. David, one of the reasons we started this podcast was so that we could spotlight some of the characters and the sidelines of the Phantom Menace who jumped out to us. And go on Wikipedia and find out how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
And I think this episode has finally provided me with a moment to talk about...
You want to talk about Gragra?
I want to talk about Gragra. If Watto, Boss Nass, and Tarpals were my holy trinity as a 10-year-old, I'd say my holy trinity now is Gragra, TC-14, and Gragra. I am all about that Gragra.
Now, just to give you to give our audience, you people, a reminder of who this is. You might remember that at a certain point in the movie, Jar Jar's walking among the markets of Mos Espa.
It's right after he stepped in poop.
And he goes, oh! And it's 5 fucking minutes on that.
Right, he steps in poop, then he almost trips, and he falls over. And
he grabs some food. Is it a living thing? I can't remember.
Yes.
It's like a frog almost or something, and he pops it in his mouth.
Yes, there's like a lizard-type creature hanging at a little stand. It's like Mos Espa is like a open marketplace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mos Espa.
There's all kinds of things you could say about the sort of third world of Tatooine and the way that's presented, and this is one of the things.
It feels a little like a open-air Moroccan market.
Yeah.
And these lizards are on display.
Yeah, so he just grabs one.
There's a very, very, by our standards, ugly creature.
Yeah, a sort of somewhat scary, heavy-set creature with big eyes and sort of horns instead of hair.
Super sharp teeth.
And teeth.
With a big knife. Jar Jar sees one of these lizards. He grabs it with his tongue and tries to eat it. This creature's like, angry, and Jar Jar's like, oh, no, and they step away.
I believe what Gragra says is quoted on her Wikipedia page, which is, "Yuwama Wonka ka goba whoopie whoopie." That's her one line.
Right. That is her one line.
Which I believe means you have to pay for that. It costs 3 whoopie.
Yep.
7 whoopie. Sorry. That's what the currency is.
So Jesus Christ. So we were playing a game and we started playing this podcast.
When we started planning out this podcast.
Who can come with the more obscure character name from Recall to bring up here? And then I was sending you a bunch of pictures of Gra. And I realized I should find out who Gra is, right? So we just described the entirety of Gra's screen time. She says that one line. Oh, she. That's the first thing we found out.
Yeah, it's a female, which is not clear.
Presents as male.
Yeah, that's fine, but that's fine.
Right. So that was a surprise right off the bat.
Her species is a swokes.
A swokes, okay?
That's what the species is called.
Here's Gra's biography.
You guys gotta just read this entry, by the way. You should have it open.
On Wikipedia. Read along with us.
Yeah.
In 32 BBY.
Gragra. Gragra.
Gra demanded that Jar Jar Binks play the 7 How do you
Whoopie.
Whoopie.
I don't know.
For a Gorg, that's what those lizards are called. The Gorg he ate from the market stall, Sebulba then started to bully Jar Jar as revenge for the latter, inadvertently ruining his meal by spitting out into the pot. Oh, right. Jar Jar then spits out the thing because Gra's like, Gra left the issue unattended.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we know.
That's the film. Here's how Wikipedia then moves on with this.
Gra regretted her harsh behavior, and on later reflection, realizing that perhaps it had been caused by trouble at home.
There's nothing to say. Just carry on.
She spoke to her husband, Grognak, only to discover that he was as emotionally distant as he had always been.
This is on the internet for you guys to read right now.
This is canon.
Yep.
This encouraged her to sell enough Gorgs, including sauces created from them, to buy her own ship so that she could leave her husband and her life of quiet domestic oppression behind, becoming a symbol to Gorgmongers everywhere.
By the way, that's her title. She is a Gorgmonger. That is what her job is.
She eventually left Mos Espa to work elsewhere, which caused the Gorg population in the sewers to grow considerably over the following years. Homeless people often fed on these Gorgs. Why isn't she the lead character of the fucking movie?
Well, or at least, why aren't we seeing all of that in a spinoff?
This is the Yaddle conundrum again. Here's a character with an interesting arc.
Oh my god, what a rich backstory.
An interesting arc. She's like the Norma Ray of Gorgmongers.
Not only that, but she is like the fulcrum point in Mos Espa's Gorg, like, community.
The entire economy changes.
Yeah, without her, they overrun the city. And they feed the homeless.
This is a fucking movie.
And forget that, like, quiet domestic oppression.
That's
this is the hours.
Quiet domestic oppression. That's heartbreaking.
Symbol to Gorgmongers everywhere. What ship does she get? Where does she leave?
See, I love the salty, and it's not like she has an abusive husband. Her husband just doesn't really appreciate
What's his
her.
Name? His name again is
Grognak?
Is Grognak, who does not have a Wikipedia entry. By the way, let's get on that.
Oh boy.
Played by who plays Gragra in the film? I don't know if this is it's not credited. Anyway,
Gragra's the best.
So you guys should just check that out. But yeah, that's Jar Jar. Jar Jar inadvertently. It's sort of a microcosm for everything Jar Jar does in this movie, where like, he's a fucking idiot, so he steals some food from a market. Like, What is he, dumb? Pay for the food.
Pay for the food.
It's not free.
Pay for the food.
And by stealing this Gorg and eating it and getting Gragra mad, she realizes, you know what? It's time to confront some harsh realities. Yeah. One, me and my husband fundamentally should not be together.
Right.
Two, I'm a fucking Gorgmonger.
Yeah.
I can scrape some money together and get the fuck out of here and be a Gorgmonger hero to the galaxy.
For once in my life, live the way I want to rather than how I think I'm supposed to live.
3, what am I? Like, just selling Gorgs? why don't I make some sauces?
Yeah.
Some nice Gorg sauces. For
August sells raw Gorg?
this shit is great as a sauce.
Distill this to a puree.
For maybe I'm killing too many Gorgs.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get out of here and let the Gorgs have their time on Tatooine.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it can be the time of the Gorgs.
Oh, and guess what happens if you let the Gorgs have their time?
Maybe that's what episode 2 is, Attack of the Gorgs.
The homeless people finally have food to eat. Oh, God, that'd be such a good sequel.
That would be so great.
Maybe that was his plan.
That's probably his
Maybe
plan.
that's what he wanted to do for episode 2.
You know what? That's probably the plan. That was probably the second movie.
Little merchandise spotlight here while we're on the subject of Gragra.
Please.
And this infamous scene.
Literally, if you're looking at your phone while you're watching the movie, you could very easily miss this scene.
It's maybe 4.5 seconds on
It's
screen.
very short.
Gragra probably is on screen in terms of...
It's 1 second.
1 second. There's one shot.
That's it.
Yeah. But man, did it leave an impression on the two of us.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked about how in the past the Hasbro company paid $100 million for the rights.
Yes. To fund this movie, essentially,
right,
yes.
To fund this movie, essentially. And so they let that trickle down to all their brands that they had at the time. Hasbro was the main company, but they also had Tiger Electronics. You may have remembered.
Of course.
Did a lot of
little
handheld games.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of things like
Battletoads.
that. Yes, sir. There was also an offshoot called Cap Candy.
I don't know it.
Okay, so Cap Candy was kind of candy toys.
Okay.
It was like toys that dispense candy.
Yeah. Like a Pez dispenser?
Well, great point.
I had a bunch of Pez dispensers.
Cap Candy.
Captain Handy.
Cap Candy is my father's name. Cap Candy is the company. And they teamed up with Pez, cross-branding opportunity, to create what they called a Jar Jar Binks Pez hander.
Okay.
Now, we know what a Pez dispenser is.
Sure, it's a head on top of a...
Yes, a figural bust of a character that we know and love.
That if you push the head back, dispenses one piece of sugary candy.
Right, and the candy is kept in a long, sort of rectangular holder.
Yes.
That
has
sort of
little
looks
feet.
like their body. It has feet, but it's not really. It's more. It's impressionistic.
It is.
Right.
But you love it when you're a kid.
You love it when you're a kid.
I had a ton when I was a kid.
It's simple. It's classic. It's lasted for 60 years.
Yeah.
For Star Wars, not good enough. For Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, not good enough. We have to reinvent the wheel.
I really want to see this thing.
I want you to see how complicated this is.
Okay.
To create the definitive Pez hander for Star Wars Episode 1, of all the things they could have chosen to depict and realize and adapt into candy dispenser form, they chose Jar Jar stealing a Gorg from Gragra.
Oh my God, there's Gragra.
So this
and
is
her Gorgs.
like a 3-walled
Jesus, this
diorama.
Yeah. This is like a Barbie house size
It's like
toy.
a mechanical diorama in which the Pezes, which are stored in the back of the base, hidden behind a Gorg, are mechanically, when you push a button, it's not just the simple spring mechanism.
Of the head, yeah.
When you push a button, it sends out one Pez onto Gragra's plate, and Jar Jar's tongue is there to receive it.
Yeah.
And Jar Jar mechanically rotates his body so that his tongue spins over to where you are, presumably on the other side with your human-sized hand, so you can catch the Pez.
Now, one might say about a Pez dispenser is that they come with the candy and you could just unwrap and eat the candy.
Yeah.
But, it's enough fun that you put it in the thing and you get one at a time. This is too much work.
This
I would just
this
eat
has
the
to take
candy.
at least 10 seconds.
It doesn't even come with like an additional bag or anything to carry it around in. That
No.
thing's huge.
You would have to mount it on your mantelpiece.
Yeah, you put it as a mantelpiece. It's a conversation piece.
Like, if you put this on a coffee table, you would then have room for one cup of coffee. The end. That's
Yes.
it.
Now,
Yeah.
David, we love Gragra.
Of course, there
because
she
we
is.
love her backstory. But what fucking executive at Cap Candy said of all the moments that we could turn to a Pez hander, we're going to reinvent the game. Pez is too simple to eat. Let's add fucking motors and batteries and push-button operations where characters have to hand you the fucking candy. Of all the moments to depict, let's pick the one where Jar Jar steals a grog from Gragra.
Well, they knew it was a powerful moment.
It was. I mean, they were right. If they were right about one thing, I sounded like I was angry, but I actually agree with everything they said. It was the right decision.
Anyway, so that's Gragra.
And Cap Candy, just quickly, also made, I think, the single worst piece of merchandise I've seen in relation to the Phantom Menace, which is a Jar Jar Binks lollipop. And I use that term loosely, in which the handle is plastic, and Jar Jar's head is on top.
Okay.
And there's sort of a push button. It's almost like a push pop. at the bottom of it, when you look at it, it's all plastic. It just looks like Jar Jar's head at the end of a stick. But then when you push that button, Jar Jar's mouth opens up super wide like he's a Muppet, like he just hinges at the jaw, and his head splits in two, and his tongue pops out, and the lollipop is the tongue.
Oh, I've seen this before. Yeah,
Jar Jar Binks
really
has a fruit-flavored tongue. And so this
really
was...
gross.
Kid goes into Toys R Us. They're at the checkout counter. They've already made their big
Yeah,
purchase
and
of
then
the
they're
day.
like, I want that.
Oh, it's an add-on purchase. Here it is. It's just $1. Mommy, please. Mommy, please. I love Jar Jar. They don't even know what it is. They go, Jar Jar on a stick, whatever. I'll give it to you. And then the parents are appalled and aghast as they watch their child push a button and begin making out with Jar Jar Binks. They made a toy to enable children.
Yeah.
It's not a toy. It's candy.
Yeah, to French kiss Jar Jar Binks.
It's a French kissing Jar Jar machine.
Yep. Oh, boy.
Okay, here's...
That was a heated one, fellas.
Thank you.
Did you have any more Jar Jar questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's my big one.
All right. Okay.
Would the sins of Jar Jar,
Yeah.
him being offensive, a reductive stereotype based off a stereotype? I mean, he's a stereotype of a stereotype. He's not a stereotype
Yes. No, absolutely,
of
absolutely.
a human behavior.
Yeah, or of a Gungan.
Right. He's like a quote of a quote of a quote, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Hats
hat
on
on a
hats.
hat and a hat.
Yes.
Okay? His ineffectiveness
Yeah.
as a character, his unimportance to the plot.
Yeah, we've barely talked about the fact that he just is, like, he plays no real purpose in the movie.
All of this.
Yeah,
all the reasons why people hated Jar Jar,
Yeah.
right? Because he's offensive,
Yeah.
because he's stupid,
Yeah.
because he's a blatant attempt to win over children who don't
Yeah.
need winning over. It's Star Wars. It's a movie about wars and the stars. It's already exciting for kids.
You open with laser swords and fucking robot battles and stuff.
The Jadis! You don't need Jar Jar.
Okay, what's the question, though?
Would all of this be forgiven if Jar Jar, the ostensible comic relief character of the Phantom Menace, were funny?
Oh, that's a great question.
Now, it's a big question, because
So
I'm
you're saying-
what would it take to make him
So
funny?
you're saying that he remains this sort of irritating stereotype and this clownish, like, nuisance to
Yeah.
the plot, but he's just performed so well that you can't help but sort of find him really hysterically funny?
Well, Connor brought up his Captain Panaka theory.
Yep.
Um,
Whereas if Captain Panaka was a little more roguish and not interested in the being part of the
the
rebellion,
movie would be a lot more interesting if he was there commenting on everything
yeah,
as
it's just
sort
like,
of an audience
this is a
surrogate,
bad idea.
relatable character.
Yeah,
But in his current incarnation, Captain Panaka is just boring.
very boring.
He would be more interesting if he was funny, but as it is, he's not a negative character.
No,
he's not a
he's
force for
nothing.
bad. Jar Jar is here explicitly to make us laugh.
Yeah.
His hijinks, his broken English, all of it is meant to be funny.
Yep.
Because he doesn't serve any real purpose to the story, it feels like George only put him in the film because he went, we got to lighten this affair up. It's
Right.
a heavy movie. We got to lighten this affair up. And I think few things are more painful to watch than failed comedy.
That's, yeah, of course.
People
and it's
hate
2 hours and 20
watching
minutes of it.
failed comedy. Because failed drama, you don't know how to react. You know, it's bad, it's lifeless.
Yeah, but it doesn't upset you, really. It's more just sort of like, well, that didn't work.
But Matt Walsh of the UCB4, creator of the Upright Citizens Brigade, the namesake of our podcasting
Star
network
of Veep.
right now,
Yep.
has a quote that I like to repeat all the time, where he said, comedy is the only artistic medium other than porn that requires a physical reaction from its viewer in order to be a success. I might have misquoted him there.
But I get what you're
But
saying.
the idea is, if a porn movie doesn't make you hot and bothered, it's not working. You can't go, oh, well, it was well shot and well constructed. It didn't work.
Right.
And comedy, likewise,
It's there to make you laugh.
it's there to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And if you see something that's meant to be a comedy, you see someone who's meant to be a comedian, and they say some interesting things, but it isn't funny, it feels like a failure.
Yep.
You go, well, I like what they're doing, but it should also be funny on top of that.
Yep.
And every time Jar Jar does anything in this movie, it's like the movie holds for laughs.
And, like, there's multiple scenes where you're like, this scene is only here to make us laugh.
The character's only there to make you laugh. He has no other
When
function.
he, for example, gets his tongue numbed by the
That's
pod
just
racing
to make people
thing,
laugh.
it's not necessary to
When
the
he
movie.
steals a gourd from Grogra, when he steps in doo-doo, it's just to make people laugh.
When
And-
Qui-Gon grabs his tongue.
oh, boy.
What else does he do? The only time he really matters to the plot is at the beginning when he leads them to the Gungan city,
Yeah.
and at the end when he defeats the droid army.
And by the way, when he defeats the droid army, it's in ostensibly a funny way.
Yeah,
Rather than give him
absolutely.
a noble victory, he's doing goofy pratfalls and slipping and throwing things by accident.
He's learned nothing. He's the idiot he always was.
Right, but it's meant to be a joke. Everything's meant to be a joke in the movie.
I know. The Amidala's triumph is powerful and serious and well executed. Jar Jar's triumph is a fucking calamity that he just happens to succeed at.
It's accidental and it's played for laughs.
Yep.
And is that
No.
perhaps
The answer is no, I think.
The most offensive thing about Jar Jar is that he's a character that exists only to be funny.
Yeah, but he's not funny.
And,
But
and
how
beyond the
could
fact
be
that
funny?
he tries to be funny through dragging up old, fucking dusty, offensive, evil cultural stereotypes, he also just isn't funny.
He's not funny.
He's also just not a funny character.
I don't think he could be funny. Maybe.
A total rewrite?
Like, literally, like, to the bones of the script.
A page one rewrite.
I'm pretty sure if someone rewrote the script, they'd be like, lose the Jar Jar character.
Of course.
Make someone else funny.
Of course.
Like, someone else who's also a real character, make him funny.
Don't make him an idiot, you know?
Don't make him stupid.
He could be clumsy, but not like clumsy and moronic and childlike.
I hate the clumsy thing, though, because it's like in movies where, you know, it's like that lame rom-com stereotype where they can't think of how to make the female lead funny, so they just have her fall over a lot.
Yeah.
It's like Jar Jar. Sometimes they're like, you have two perfectly good wide feet. You can't stand on them.
He's got the widest feet I've ever
He's
seen.
got these big, sort of clawed, heavy feet.
Yeah.
He can't.
Ben.
I've got a two-parter for you, gentlemen.
Okay.
All right.
Oh boy.
Is there a subtler way to establish the traits of these characters we put into question without using stereotypical tropes? Or is the issue more telling to the larger problem at play in this film? That because so much effort is spent on exposition and driving the plot along, that proper character development is ignored.
Okay, just quickly, before we answer that, I want all of you to know that producer Ben was reading that. That was typed up on his computer screen, just so you don't think he's the poet laureate. And you're wondering why we're stumbling over our words for an hour and producer Ben gets up and doesn't miss a beat.
I think that Ben has a very good point about
He
the
does have a very
exposition.
good point. Yeah, Ben's really smart. He's the poet laureate of this podcast.
Because you're right. Like, no one gets to be developed as a real character in this movie because there's way too much time spent on like, so you're a Jedi, I'm a queen, Gungan. They just have to. So it's like, oh, well, Jar Jar will just fall over a lot.
Yeah.
And he's got to talk like a fucking idiot, or else we're not going to get that he's stupid.
Yeah,
he's the dumb funny one. He's the sleazy one.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Done.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
George Lucas is like, well, I'm making like a Flash Gordon serial.
Yeah.
Everyone has to conform to a really obvious Looney Tunes type archetype just so we get it, and then we can be like, oh, I have a hyperdrive for you.
And George Lucas, no expert at comedy, in trying to create the perfect, quote-unquote, funny one.
Although American Graffiti is funny.
Yeah, but in a humanistic
in a
sort of
in
like
a
slice of
wry,
life kind of way.
melancholy,
Yeah,
But still. Anyway.
Yes, but here he's trying to create a fully comedic creation, just a powerhouse of comedy, right?
It's true.
And in doing so, he just tries to reverse engineer things that are funny in other people.
Yeah.
Okay. The fool, the Falstaffian fool is a classic comedic archetype. Clumsiness, Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd,
the pratfalling sort of
physical comedy,
genius.
the prowess of clumsiness,
or Jackie Chan,
having
like,
its own beauty. Yeah.
There are those Jackie Chan movies where he basically gets into fights even though he doesn't know what he's doing, but it's just a bunch of hilarious mishaps that lead to him beating up a group of people or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
All these things he tried to. I mean, in a way, the sort of childlike naivete of Chauncey Gardner.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
All these different elements that work so well in some of the greatest comedies ever made. He just took the surface elements of like, oh, so you have a guy who can barely speak English, is really stupid, and falls down all the time. That will equal fun.
And we'll give him 50 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll give him like one of the biggest narrative arcs in the film.
Yeah. Do you have a second question, Ben?
No, that was
the
two
two-part
questions.
question.
And I think we answered them as best we could, not as eloquently as Ben.
Yeah, the answer is cut fucking Jar Jar out of the movie. But here's the worst part.
Yeah.
Every week we try to answer the one central question we're coming back to.
What's the movie about?
What's the movie about? And we answer it through the prism of what we focused on that week, the recent rewatch with our eyes on this element.
Yeah.
I I think the movie's kind of about Jar Jar.
Yeah, well, because we've been
I don't
talking
say that
about
in a good way. It's kind of about Jar. He is.
We've been talking about it as like, you know, George says, well, it's Amidala's movie told through the eyes of the Jedi. Okay, maybe. But yeah, like as I said, it ends with the Gungans. It ends with them, you know, with Nass lifting the orb.
Jar Jar has the most complete arc in the movie. He starts out the film as an outcast.
Yeah. By the end, he's raised to the rank of general.
And he saves them in their
they
battle for independence.
And there's like peace, and but the one problem with that is, as we've said, his actual arc is flat because at the beginning of the movie, he's a clumsy idiot, and at the end of the movie, guess what he is?
But that falls on the Chauncey Gardner thing. It's just the perception around him changes.
Oh, man. I just feel like it's like, is he trying to say something about like what fools we are as men and like the idiocy of recognizing people for their achievements? Like Jar Jar is promoted to general just because he helps broker this truce.
Well,
and so they're like, oh, Jar Jar, you must be smart. He's not.
Well, and how fools can rise to power.
Yeah.
You know, through savviness and diligence. I mean, Jar Jar just refuses to leave the side of our heroes.
It's true.
By doing that, he gets promoted. He does nothing right on purpose.
He does nothing right throughout the movie.
You know, but a broken clock is still right 2 times a day.
Or in his case, like 18 times a day.
Jesus Christ. I think this movie's about Jar Jar. I think it's a very cynical look at how Jar Jar-esque figures have risen to power.
So maybe that's why it feels so mean-spirited.
Maybe it's a scathing attack.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Powerful figures. I don't know what the fuck this movie's about.
We don't know what it's about, man. We're struggling.
Well, I think back to a moment in one of the behind-the-scenes documentaries on the Phantom Menace DVD and Blu-ray, in which George is consulting with a bunch of the special effects people, and they're looking at images and stuff, I think, on the computers. And he looks up at whoever's filming, and he just goes, Jar Jar's the key to this whole movie. If we can make Jar Jar work, then the whole movie works. And he was talking about it in terms of the effects.
Yeah.
He said,
that's the only way he can think about anything.
A character like this, who's fully CGI, is this integrated into the action, you know, into the environments and all of that? He was like, technically, I wonder if we're going to pull it off.
Yeah.
But I also think narratively he was asking that question.
Yep.
And I think that question
is answered.
Yeah. With a resounding no.
With a big old N-O. Technically, I would say they basically pull it off.
Technically, yeah. Yeah, on a technical level, yeah. But the fact that he put that much focus on Jar Jar might be the biggest problem in the movie.
Yeah. No, I think it's the biggest problem in the movie. It's the consensus biggest problem in the movie.
It's not just that he's culturally insensitive. It's not just that he's unfunny. But for the amount of time devoted to him, he doesn't do anything.
There's no satisfaction watching him succeed.
There's no payoff.
There's no payoff.
That hadn't been said the first time I saw the movie. I thought Jar Jar was funny.
Yeah. You just thought he was funny?
Yeah, I was 10.
I used to do a good Jar Jar impression. I didn't
hate him
either. I more preferred Jedi's chopping people up with lightsabers.
I thought he was funny, but I don't know if I ever laughed at him. I was just like, yeah, Jar Jar's fine.
Yeah. I think I knew immediately that people had a problem with Jar Jar, and I was like, I don't really care.
I walked into it defensively because everyone was like, this is the hot button character, and I went, he's fine. What's offensive about him?
You were 9 years old.
I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I was 10.
You had not gotten to your 10th grade paper. Bigger. What's it called? Back in Blackface.
Back in Blackface, or can you show me how to get to racism straight?
That's not what it was called.
Yeah, it was. It had a fucking subtitle. I was a terrible student. I should have gotten kicked out. They should have kicked me out for that paper.
They don't kick people out of that school.
Do you know what my thesis was at the end of that paper?
Go ahead.
That Beauty Shop, the Queen Latifah starring. Movie. I argued that it was the most offensive movie ever made.
I love that movie so much. We should do a whole podcast about Beauty Shop. We really should. It's amazing.
I don't even remember what my argument was.
Oh, God.
But I actually, as a 14-year-old, tried to present the argument that Beauty Shop was more offensive than Amos and Andy.
It is not. That movie is a triumph on every level.
That's the worst opinion that anyone has ever had.
It contains Jaimon Honsu, who plays the love interest in that film. He plays a Nigerian electrician. At one point just says, "Shout out to Africa." Just apropos of nothing. It's a great
Alfred
moment.
Woodard, Kevin Bacon, Alicia Silverstone.
Kevin Bacon is the evil, Nazi villain of that movie.
Stacked cast.
Andy McDowell.
Yeah.
I think, who else is in that movie? A lot of people are in that movie. It's a stacked cast.
Loretta Devine? Am I just dream
I think
casting
Loretta Devine is in it. I think Octavia Spencer? No, or Sherry Shepherd might be in it.
Oh, Sherry Shepherd is in it. Yeah.
Oh, it's just a great movie.
We can't talk about Bishop anymore.
Man,
thank
so
you all
good,
for
though.
listening. I know this has been a tough episode.
Jesus,
we had to go through the mud.
Yeah, that's fine. Next. Oh well, do we want people to write in?
Yeah. We're
we're really struggling.
We're struggling here to come up with an answer.
For what the movie's about.
I think going for our season finale, in which we will conclude our investigation of the Phantom Menace, which is still a handful of episodes away.
Yeah, it's true. But we're coming up on it, and we're recording in advance.
We want to outsource our question because we're making still a little progress here. So if you have a theory on what the Phantom Menace is about, please send us an audio recording. Just record it on your phone or whatever device you have on your computer,
whatever.
3 minutes of you giving us your explanation of what you think the Phantom Menace is about, and send it to our email, which producer Ben knows because he set it up, and it is
griffinanddavidpresent@gmail.com.
Look at that.
That's our email.
Send it over to us. We'll listen to it, and it would be in our final episode. We're going to play a bunch of them in the final episode. Next week, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I feel defeated.
Well, we're probably going to talk more about water. Yeah. We're probably going to do a lot more water.
Yeah,
Water, though. All right.
As always, thank you for listening.
Yes.
May the Schwartz be with you.